If you are a filmmaker, you know that inserts are super important. They convey tone, detail, unease, tension, and often the most important story elements are told through beautiful insert shots. There are countless videos on YouTube on the importance of inserts, so I won't be getting into that here, but today I want to share with you a very simple technique that I use to quickly capture beautiful inserts in my films, promotional content, and yes, even wedding videos. I'm Scott Jeske, and welcome back to the channel. When I'm making films, I usually work with very limited time with the location and the actors, so I tend to prioritize dialogue and wider shots before inevitably losing time in the shoot day. Inherently, I know the importance of inserts, but they are often an afterthought for me, as I've heard from many other filmmakers. And honestly, when I look back at my films, so often it's the inserts that make me the most crazy because, well, they're boring. If you have the time and the money, of course, my first advice would be to put as much detail and thought into your inserts as possible. But here I want to show a very simple technique that will allow you to get exceptional looking insert shots at a rapid fire pace. As you probably saw from my last video, I'm a big fan of using a wand light to find the best lighting angles. I've always been a huge proponent of shooting upstage, which in essence means placing the light opposite of your subject, or backlighting, in order to get the most depth and dimension to your subject. Previously, I used a cheap wand light, and you can get the same effect with just about any battery-powered LED light, but the good folks at SIRUI were kind enough to send me this unique tube light to try out. This video is not sponsored by SIRUI, but I'm thrilled to show you what this light can do, and if you're like me, you're probably experiencing some FOMO with all the aperture tube videos coming out. This light is an amazing alternative that is super affordable and has the unique function of being able to telescope, which I've never seen in this kind of light before. It has RGB and bicolor functionality, as well as standard effects that come with these kinds of lights. It also has this ring, which allows for plenty of options for hanging the light, for instance. It also has a stand, which is great if you just want to set it up on a desk for this kind of setup. If you'd like to see a full video on the light, just let me know in the comments. I'm also using a tripod from SIRUI, which so far is surprisingly lightweight, but very sturdy and smooth on the head. I'm really digging it so far. And both items are linked below with my special affiliate link if you are interested in checking these out further. So let's take a look at some insert shots that I created quickly. For each example, I'm going to show you a bad version and my version, so you can see the effect of my simple method. This method is not a hard and fast rule for all insert shots, but it is a helpful tool if you're feeling lost on how to make your insert look interesting. On a real set, there would be far more work done with light modification, but this technique is still preferable to alternative options and will really make your inserts pop, even on client productions. My primary light for these examples is an LED tube light, just to keep the example basic and simple. I will be placing it upstage or backlighting my subject, and in some of these instances it's also somewhat of top lighting, which totally works as well. The main thing here is to give it depth and keep it from looking flat. On a human face, a key light from the side/front can still have a good amount of depth because it's a larger source and a larger subject. But the tricky thing with inserts is they're often smaller objects or subjects, so it's difficult to light them from the front without losing that depth. In this instance, I also added a teal background light to add some color contrast and make our insert pop. I wasn't crazy about some of these specular highlights coming off the metal surface of the necklace, so I added some diffusion paper to the tube light just to soften it up a bit. Now, one of the dirty secrets of macro style insert shots is that they are typically shot with a fairly closed aperture, usually between f5.6 and f8. If this were an extremely macro shot, I would have leaned closer to f8. This always feels odd because the gut feeling for these kinds of shots seems like it should be a higher f-stop, but that typically tends to make the image feel flat and it reduces the clarity of the small subject. Often for insert shots, we'll see a pile of books being picked up or placed down, and for this shot I used some old books and started with the boring version, which is front lighting with the tube light angling fairly head-on at a higher angle. And for my version, I turned on the background light to motivate the lighting of the scene. I lowered the camera to be more eye level with the books and brought the camera at an angle where there is a more interesting composition of leading lines and more depth as well. Though the backlighting technique makes it pop, I also decided to add just a touch of key lighting from a small LED panel at 2700 Kelvin to match, and at 13% luminance, just to make the titles of the books a little more legible. Here's a shot of some women's shoes on the ground, implying that someone came home in a hurry, or perhaps it's a scene from after a party. Now, the boring version of this shot would be to front light from the side, treating the main source like a traditional key light. Again, using my top/backlight approach, the shoes really pop from the background in a more evocative way, conveying more tone and mood, but also giving us good depth with checkerboard alternations of light to dark across the frame. It's extremely simple, but very effective. For my last example, we've all seen the shot where someone hears a prowler in the house and they pull a knife from the set of kitchen knives, and perhaps if you were filming the scene in your home kitchen, your starting point would be simply to film the knives where they already are placed in the kitchen, not neglecting some nice centered framing and a decent light from the side. But as you can see here, the shot doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't do much to tell a story, and it could be a lot better. What if instead we cheat the shot? We place the knives off the counter in such a way that you can't tell, and we film from a low profile angle so that you can see both the knives and the subject as a shadowy figure in the background. Backlighting the knives also provides good drama and allows for those alternating light to dark shadow variations, providing us with depth, but also some good suspenseful visual storytelling. When setting up an insert, it's always important to consider, is this the most interesting angle, both for aesthetics and for telling the story? There are a million ways to light these kinds of shots, and ideally you will have a fully lit set, which you can bring in detailed lighting modifiers for these kinds of close-ups. But regardless, using this technique will elevate your inserts above being just an afterthought that we often see in low-budget indie films or productions. Authenticity for the story is the most important, but image quality is a close second. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to help support me in making more videos. See you guys next time.